Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. This channel, the Ignition Time channel, is about the country, the economy, as well as our money. One of the important matters pertaining to the country is the event, the incident on the 6th of January. In fact, there's a hearing going on in Washington, D.C. right now, and I am going to bring you the latest updates, some important comments from police officers, from lawmakers, and from troublemakers outside Congress. Let's just jump right in. Welcome to our channel, everyone. My name is Dr. Chhoda. This right here is a little bit of information about me. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. Let's start by taking a look at an important comment from DC Metropolitan Police Officer Daniel Hodges. He said, I quote, "The insurrection crowd was overwhelmingly white males. Some of them would try to recruit me. There are many known organizations with ties to white supremacy who had a presence there." Let's roll the tape and hear from the DC Metropolitan Police Officer Daniel Hodges. Let's watch.
The crowd was overwhelmingly white males, usually a little bit older, middle-aged, older, but some younger. I think out of the entire time I was there, I saw just 2 women and 2 Asian males. Everyone else was white males. They didn't say anything especially xenophobic to me, but to my black colleagues and anyone who's not white. And some of them would try to recruit me. One of them came up to me and said, "Are you my brother?" There are many known organizations with ties to white supremacy had a presence there.
Here's another important comment from Daniel Hodges as part of the January 6th committee testimony. He said, "To my perpetual confusion, I saw the thin blue line flag, a symbol of support for law enforcement, carried by the terrorists as they ignored our commands and continued to assault us." This is shocking. Let's roll the tape and watch.
The sea of people was punctuated throughout by flags, mostly variations of American flags and Trump flags. There was Gadsden flags. It was clear the terrorists perceived themselves to be Christians. I saw the Christian flag directly to my front. Another read, "Jesus is my savior, Trump is my president." Another, "Jesus is king." One flag read, "Don't give up the ship." Another had crossed rifles beneath the skull, emblazoned with the pattern of the American flag. To my perpetual confusion, I saw the thin blue line flag, a symbol of support for law enforcement, more than once, being carried by the terrorists as they ignored our commands and continued to assault us.
Here's a comment from DC Metropolitan Police Officer Michael Fanone. He said this, "I was at risk of being stripped off and killed with my own firearm as I heard chants of 'kill him with his own gun.'" Pretty incredible. Let's roll the tape and hear from Michael Fanone. Let's watch.
"I was grabbed, beaten, tased, all while being called a traitor to my country. I was at risk of being stripped of and killed with my own firearm as I heard chants of 'kill him with his own gun.' I could still hear those words in my head today."
There was more powerful testimony. In fact, this is some of the most powerful testimony I've seen in front of Congress for a long time. Here are the last 2 minutes of testimony from Officer Harry Dunn. I just want you to watch, and I want you to be the judge. Let's roll the tape and watch.
Telling the truth shouldn't be hard. Fighting on January 6th, that was hard. Showing up January 7th, that was hard. The 8th, the 9th, the 10th, all the way till today, that was hard. When the fence came down, that was hard. We lost a layer of protection that we had, and the fence came down and still nothing has changed. Everything is different, but nothing has changed. Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger are being lauded as courageous heroes. And while I agree with that notion, why? Because they told the truth? Why is telling the truth hard? I guess in this America, it is. Us 4 officers, we would do January 6th all over again. We wouldn't stay home because we knew it was going to happen. We would show up. That's courageous. That's heroic. So what I ask from you all is to get to the bottom of what happened. And that includes, like, I echo the sentiments of all of the other officers sitting here. I use an analogy to describe what I want as a hitman. If a hitman is hired and he kills somebody, the hitman goes to jail. But not only does the hitman go to jail, but the person who hired them does. There was an attack carried out on January 6th, and a hitman sent them. I want you to get to the bottom of that.
Now, the lawmakers on the January 6th committee actually saw horrific video footage of the insurrection on the Capitol. Let's roll the tape and see some reactions from lawmakers as they watched this horrific footage. Let's roll the tape and watch.
If I give this up, they're going to have to run access. At least this Capitol we can defend. We gotta hold what we have. Your heads off.
Yeah.
Start making a list, put all those names down, and we start hunting them down one by one.
So the two Republicans who are on this committee who are actually selected by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi are Congressman Liz Cheney, the Republican from Wyoming, and Congressman Adam Kinzinger, the Republican from Illinois. In fact, let's take a look at an important comment from Congressman Liz Cheney. She said, the fact that some Republicans have gone from recognizing what happened on the 6th to protesting in front of the Justice Department on behalf of those who were part of the insurrection is something I can't explain. I think it's a disgrace. Let's roll the tape and hear from Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Let's watch.
The fact that many members of our leadership and others, the fact that they've gone from recognizing what happened on the 6th to protesting in front of the Justice Department on behalf of those who were part of the insurrection is something that I can't explain. I think it's a disgrace.
In another segment, Congressman Liz Cheney does not rule out calling House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who's a Republican from California, and Congressman Jim Jordan, the Republican from Ohio, to testify before the January 6th committee. Let's roll the tape and hear what she had to say. Let's watch.
Leader McCarthy also had phone calls with President Trump on that day. Are Leader McCarthy and former President Trump material witnesses as well?
Look, I think that the American people, as I said, deserve to know what happened every minute of that day. They deserve to know about every phone call that was made in and out of the White House, every meeting, every discussion that was had that day in the White House as the Capitol building was under attack. And so the committee will go wherever it needs to go to get to the facts.
Here's another important comment from Congresswoman Liz Cheney, the Republican from Wyoming, at the first hearing of the January 6th committee. She said this, I quote, "We must know what happened here at the Capitol. We must also know what happened every minute of that day in the White House, every phone call, every discussion, every meeting." Folks, there was an important phone call between Congressman Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, and former President Trump on that day. I think we should all know as citizens what happened on that phone call, because I believe the truth could be devastating for the Republican leadership. Let's roll the tape and hear from Congresswoman Liz Cheney, the Republican from Wyoming.
We must know what happened here at the Capitol. We must also know what happened every minute of that day in the White House. Every phone call, every conversation, every meeting leading up to, during, and after the attack. Honorable men and women have an obligation to step forward. If those responsible are not held accountable, and if Congress does not act responsibly, this will remain a cancer on our constitutional republic.
And the other Republican lawmaker I mentioned was Congressman Adam Kinzinger from Illinois. In fact, the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, called him, I quote, a Pelosi Republican. And this is what Adam Kinzinger said in response. Kevin McCarthy is technically my Republican leader, and to call members of Congress by childish names like Donald Trump used to, I guess, is just kind of par for the course. Let's roll the tape and hear from Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Let's watch.
Bottom line, I'm an elected member of Congress. I'm a Republican. Kevin McCarthy is technically my Republican leader. And to call, members of Congress by childish names like Donald Trump used to do, I guess, is just kind of part of it.
And here's another clip featuring Congressman Adam Kinzinger, the Republican from Illinois. He's actually tearing up speaking to officers who were testifying during the January 6th committee hearing. This is a quote from Congressman Kinzinger. For all the overheated rhetoric surrounding this committee, our mission is very simple. It's to find the truth and it's to ensure accountability. Let's roll the tape and hear from Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Let's watch.
You guys may individually feel a little broken. You guys all talk about the effects you have to deal with, and you talk about the impact of that day. But you guys won. You guys held. Democracies are not defined by our bad days. We're defined by how we come back from bad days, how we take accountability for that. And for all the overheated rhetoric surrounding this committee, our mission is very simple. It's to find the truth, and it's to ensure accountability.
And here's another important video clip featuring Kinzinger. This was actually featured on CNN. He was responding to calls for him to be stripped of committee assignments by the Republicans for serving on the January 6th Select Committee and being selected by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. He said this, I quote, "If people want to get petty, that's fine. No matter the consequences, me and I know Congresswoman Liz Cheney will stand and defend democracy." Let's roll the tape and hear from Adam Kinzinger. Let's watch.
Congressman Cheney and Congressman Kinzinger, what do you say to Republicans who are now calling for you to be stripped of your committee assignments as a result of you serving on this committee through an appointment by Speaker Pelosi?
All I have to say to that is we had a big attack on January 6th. We heard very emotional testimony today. And that's what's on the forefront of my mind. And if people want to get petty, that's fine. I think that reflects more on people than it does on the situation at hand. This is a historic moment, and this is a democracy-defending moment. And no matter the consequences, me and I know Liz will stand and defend democracy.
And if you were wondering who Congresswoman Liz Cheney was referring to earlier in this episode of Ignition Time, who she was referring to, talking about individuals who were on the side of the insurrectionists, she's actually referring to Congressman Matt Gaetz, and she's referring to Marjorie Taylor Greene. They actually had a presser right outside the halls of Congress. They were having a press conference and they were actually being disrupted by one person who was continuously whistling. Let's take a look at this whistler who was disrupting Congressman Matt Gaetz, Gosar Gohmert, and the troublemaker Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's watch the whistler.
Why are you blowing in people's ears, dude? Are you trying to assault people?
They should move away.
Are you trying to assault people
They should move away.
with auditory weapons? Why are you assaulting?
They're my problem. Congressman Gohmert is my problem. Congressman.
Here's another angle where the Republicans' attempted counter-protest of the January 6th Commission was counter-protested by a single person whistling, and he actually caused the disruption of the press conference that basically didn't last very long. Let's roll the tape and watch the disruption of this press conference of troublemakers outside the halls of Congress. Let's watch.
People's salaries, and they owe the people of this country the answers to the questions.
We need a break. We need it. Okay. The left is interrupting the press conference. We need to end it.
Thank you. For those of you that really care about due process, thank you.
And speaking of disruptors, this is what the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said about the whole January 6th Commission. He was asked why he didn't watch the January 6th hearing, and he simply said, "I was busy doing work." Let's roll the tape and hear from Mitch McConnell. Let's watch.
The recurring message at the hearing today over on the House side on the January 6th attacks was a frustration from the officers who were responding with those who were downplaying the significance of the attack on January 6th. As somebody, you were here on that day, what is your message to those who have been downplaying the severity and the significance of the attack on the Capitol on January 6th?
I had a good deal to say about that, not once, but twice, on January 6th and again on February the 13th. I don't see how I could have expressed myself more forthrightly than I did on that occasion, and I stand by everything I said on January 6th and February 13th.
Why not? Peter McConnell, did you watch any of the hearing today?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
I was busy doing work. I serve in the Senate.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who was protesting the January 6th Commission, said Nancy Pelosi bears responsibility as Speaker of the House for the tragedy that occurred on January 6th. I don't know how she made that leap. I guess she thinks that people listening to her and people following Republican leaders are fools because they'll believe anything. We all know who was responsible for the 6th of January. Let's roll the tape and hear from yet another Republican troublemaker, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Let's roll the tape and watch.
There is a reason that Nancy Pelosi is the most disliked elected official in America. She always puts her own partisan politics over what's best for the American people. She's an authoritarian who has broken the people's house. She is a lame duck speaker, and everyone knows it. The reason why Nancy Pelosi is refusing to seat accomplished and well-respected hardworking Republicans like Jim Jordan and Jim Banks is because she doesn't want the American people to know the truth or learn the facts. She doesn't want a fair or bipartisan investigation. She wants a political one. It is a fact that in December of 2020, Nancy Pelosi was made aware of potential security threats to the Capitol, and she failed to act. It is a fact that the U.S. Capitol Police raised concerns, and rather than providing them with the support and resources they needed and they deserved, she prioritized her partisan political optics over their safety. The American people deserve to know the truth that Nancy Pelosi bears responsibility as Speaker of the House for the tragedy that occurred on January 6th. And it was only after Republicans started asking these important questions that she refused to seat them. House Republicans will continue to follow the truth and the facts and support our law enforcement officers to make sure this never happens again in the U.S. Capitol, the People's House. And I'm proud to turn it over.
And if you thought that was bizarre, let's take a look at an even more bizarre character, Congressman Jim Jordan. He said, I quote, "When you spend a year talking about defunding the police and actually defund the police, it's kind of hard to have more police here on January 6th like they should have done." So there you have it, Republicans taking things to a whole new level of crazy, bizarre behavior and bizarre comments from Congressman Jim Jordan. Folks, in the end, when things seem complicated, the simplest solution or the simplest explanation is often the correct one. And in this case, you know and I know who was responsible for and what happened on the 6th of January. But first, let's hear from the bizarro Jim Jordan. Let's watch.
When you spend a year talking about defunding the police and actually defund the police, it's kind of hard to have more police here on January 6th like they should have done. That's the fundamental question. That's why this thing has turned into such a political charade. The police officers who will testify today, and frankly all Capitol Hill police officers, deserve to have more help that day. But the Democrats couldn't do it because of the political position they had taken all throughout last year. That's the fundamental question that won't be answered. That's why Republicans aren't serving on this committee.
That's it, everyone. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please also enable notifications. A lot of effort goes into the creation, the production of this content, stitching together all the video clips into one quick episode of Ignition Time for you to watch. You can reward us by clicking the like button, by clicking subscribe, by enabling notifications. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.